Alek, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us. This is important for us to hear from you directly. We appreciate you putting the time and spending a few minutes of your morning with us here. Before we get started, I would like to give you a little brief explanation about our association, after which we'll go with few ground rules. Then you'll have an opportunity to give us your opening statement, and that will follow with your first question from our members here on the call. For you to know, Glendale Association of Realtors was established back in 1920, over 106 years ago, with about 70 members. We are one of the oldest organizations in the city that continuously have been serving the community. Our members have not just participated in the community, but they've helped shaping it by serving on the Glendale City Council, Chamber of Commerce, planning commissions, school boards, and other civic bodies that are operating within the city of Glendale in leadership capacities with service and results. Giving back to our community, is not an afterthought for us. It's part of our organizational DNA. Year after year, we've supported local organizations and community initiatives. And more specifically, over the past several decades, we have raised and distributed more than $1 million to causes such as Salvation Army and other vital community partners within the boundaries of City of Glendale, serving the residents. So today, our membership is about 1,500, and approximately 1,200 of us are registered voters in the City of Glendale. So when you factor in our families, our clients, and the extended networks, you notice that our sphere of influence reaches deep into the Glendale electorate, representing thousands of engaged and informed voters, which all of this come together, making this conversation much more relevant, something that matters. So with that said, as far as the ground rules, you are going to have about 2 minutes for your opening statement. Then we'll be asking you, hopefully time allowing, about 6 questions, at the end of which you will have another 2 minutes for your closing statement. So with that said, you have the floor. We are ready for your opening statement. You can unmute yourself and get going.
Great. So, hello everybody. It's good to be here with you this morning, and thanks for the opportunity to conduct this interview with you. My name is Alek Bartrosouf, lifelong Glendale resident, Armenian immigrant that has been here my entire life. My family immigrated to the Glendale when I was just a few months old, and I grew up in South Glendale, where I walked and biked everywhere as a 90s kid growing up. And, one of the reasons why I'm running is because I care very deeply about this community. We are plagued with transportation issues and traffic safety, as you all know, as you did a community survey and have learned yourself. But I'm a transportation planner by profession. I got my master's degree from UCLA in urban planning. And within that profession, I do transportation, project management, policy specifically, and I have over 10 years of experience in that profession. Like you and many of your board members and members of your organization, I too have been very involved in the community. It really started when I was 22 years old and I built the community gardens on Monterey Road. That really paved the way for my community involvement. I've been involved in the community ever since. I've served 3 commission terms, twice on the Transportation and Parking Commission, once on the Sustainability Commission, have been appointed to serve as the chair twice in those capacities. I also serve on the Bond Oversight Committee, both appointed by the GCC Board of Trustees and the Glendale Unified School District Board. very involved in the community and want to make sure that we are preparing for the future and our younger generations have a place where they can afford to live in Glendale.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. We appreciate for that. Let's start with our first questionnaire, our president, Drew Garabatian. Drew?
Thank you. Good morning, Alek. My first question is in regards to revenue measures to address Glendale's projected structural budget deficit. Some have proposed placing various revenue measures before voters. Would you support placing any of the following measures on the ballot? And I'll list them to you. A parcel tax, a real estate transfer tax, a sales tax increase, or a vacancy tax on residential or commercial properties. Thank you.
Uh, no, that you didn't include the sales tax measure, did you? In that list? I don't think I heard it.
I did include the sales tax.
Uh, did?
Yes.
Yeah,
Parcel
that
tax, sales tax, real estate transfer tax, and the vacancy.
Yeah, of those, I think the sales tax would be something that I would consider placing on the ballot. As you know, we are in a structural deficit that's going to span multiple years. But before I consider or want to consider any of those proposals, I think what's instrumental in making sure our community is engaged in the budget process specifically is having a version of participatory budgeting in the city of Glendale. So many residents are unfamiliar with our budget process. They're unfamiliar with the way in which money is coming in and the way money is spent. And I think now, in particular, when we are hurting and don't have the money that we need to keep the city's lights on and grow, I think it's fundamental for the community to be much more engaged and actually providing input on how they feel would be the best way to bring in revenue, maintain our workforce, grow our workforce in the places that they feel is necessary. And we don't have that process currently. Our budget sessions are during the day. Nobody's able to pay attention because they're at work and they're busy during the daytime. So a lot of these decisions are happening in the dark, and it's a lot of pressure for 5 council members to have a pulse on the community without that type of engagement. So that's one of the things that I would like to bring in as a newly elected council member in June, understanding that the budget session has already passed at that point. That would be one of my top priorities, is to make sure that in the next fiscal year, before we start talking about budget sessions and where we're getting more revenue or where we're cutting spending, first and foremost, we need to be engaging the community and how we're having those conversations.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that. Our next questioner will be our LGLR committee chair, our past president, Eddie Minassian. Eddie? I believe there's a possibility that he is
Eddie
away
had an
from
emergency.
us.
Yeah, he
Right.
had to step off.
Greg, if you won't mind asking the question.
Oh, yes, of course. The question is in regards to the council districts, if I'm not wrong.
Correct.
One of the issues that City of our association had some concerns, not so much so with the CVRA, but the fact of the dominance of tenancy or tenant districts and what have you. With that, what are your sentiments about it? What do you think? Is it good? Is it bad? Should we have it or not?
Yeah, I stated this in the candidate questionnaire, and I genuinely feel this way. I am conflicted. I see the pros and cons of districting. And it's not a cut and dry proposal. There's actually various iterations that make the proposal stronger or could make it weaker, depending on if we're willing to digest some kind of hybrid approach. So I like the idea of potentially having districts that also have at-large electeds, whether it's mayor or at-large council members. So I'm amenable to that idea. Ultimately and honestly, we have uh, beaten this conversation dead. I think it needs to end up going to the voters. We've spent a lot of time, whether it's staff time at council meetings, hiring consultants to do assessments and analyses. And the Charter Review Committee has also chimed in, and while their majority is in opposition, I also think that it's a fractured decision. Let it just go to the voters. I think we've exhausted this conversation. I'm tired of talking about it personally. And I think ultimately, if it's going to go to the voters, let's have it go to the voters and let this be a done deal. There's a lot of business that the city needs to conduct, very pressing issues that are happening now. And I think this is becoming a distraction and has become a polarizing issue. I'm on the fence. I'm not feeling strongly one way or the other, but I see the pros and cons of both sides.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alek. Our next question is going to come to you from one of our board members, Armik Avedisian. Armik?
Good morning, Alek.
Hello.
Question is housing type and developments. In general, which type of housing development do you believe Glendale should prioritize? Like large apartment buildings, mid-scale family, multifamily developments, approximately 8 to 16 units, ownership housing such as single-family homes, condos, and townhouses, or balanced mix of depending on location.
Yeah, I think I have a few of those apply. So I think we need a balanced approach first and foremost. I think in recent years we've been very good at building 6-story box apartments, and that's dominating the conversation and the negativity around housing and development in our city, unfortunately. I think we need to refocus our efforts on what I'm calling and what other people have called as the missing middle of housing. Condos, townhouses, entry-level for sale homes in the city of Glendale. I bought my condo in I guess I was still in my 30s at the time. And that got me into the housing market, and it got me the ability to invest in property and to grow my income and my wealth. And unfortunately, there are not new condos and townhomes being built in Glendale. So the housing stock, where normally you would think these are considered entry level, they're becoming out of date. We've got tons of condos and townhomes from the 70s and the 60s, and they're not being replaced with newer condos and townhomes. And what that's doing for people in my generation, I just turned 40, and people younger than me, when they're ready to buy a house and the average home in Glendale is $1.4 million, that is out of range for 98% of the people in my generation and younger. So I'd like to see Glendale figure out what policies they need to adjust to put in more small lot subdivisions, more townhomes, condos. I know there's builders liability that needs to be addressed at the state legislature. We need to be cooperating or coordinating with the state to make sure that those policies are fixed. But there are things here in Glendale that we can do to address that missing middle. I see so many of these units that are for sale in Highland Park, Atwater Village, Eagle Rock. All of the neighborhoods surrounding Glendale have these entry-level for sale units. And for some reason, they're not being built in Glendale. So when it comes to housing, that would be my top priority, is to make sure that we are figuring out ways that those entry-level for sale units are being built in Glendale.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that. All right. Our next questioner is our 2027 President-elect board member, Susan Bruselian. Susan?
Good morning, Alek. How are you?
Good morning.
My question is regarding the bike lane policy. It's been a very contentious issue in the city of Glendale, as you know. Uh, my question is, do you support or oppose removing vehicle lanes to create bike-only lanes in Glendale? If you support if you support lane reductions, what evidence do you have that voters agree with? If you oppose lane reductions, what alternative mobility or safety improvements do you propose?
Yeah, so as a transportation planner with over 10 years of transportation planning experience, my number one priority is to deliver what the residents have been asking for, which is safer streets in Glendale. It's not only your poll and survey that gave us that result, the city conducted their own survey as well. And the number one top issue for Glendale residents is traffic safety. So I'm uniquely qualified to address this issue. I do not support lane removal simply for the sake of adding bike lanes. I think the purpose of lane reductions or lane reconfigurations serves the purpose of making a street safer. So the example that I can point to is La Crescenta Avenue. That is a corridor that is being reconfigured. And for me, the number one benefit of that project is introducing a center turn lane, which does not exist currently. And what that does, for example, is that reduces the most common collision type on that corridor, which is rear end collisions, broadside collisions, and side swipes. As somebody in the industry and in the field, that is very common along corridors that do not have a center turn lane. So you see the same kind of collision patterns on Glen Oaks between Brand and Geneva, same kind of configuration, same thing on Cañada and Verdugo. It's a common issue on four-lane streets. So to answer your question directly, I'll repeat it again. I don't support the removal of travel lanes specifically for the purpose of adding bike lanes, but there are other primary benefits that could come with those kind of reconfigurations. So I want to be clear-eyed about that. It all depends on the context. It depends on corridor by corridor. I'm not here to say, citywide, that's a policy that I agree with. Each and every corridor needs to be assessed. San Fernando Road was another example. We were able to introduce a bike lane without any lane reductions. So there's compromises that can be had. Most of the bike lanes, in fact, all of them in the city of Glendale did not result in the removal of a travel lane. So there is balance. In a city of 200,000 people, we do need to provide transportation options other than driving their cars. You can still drive your car, but I feel strongly that if we're going to work our way out of this congestion problem as our population increases, we need to provide options that are safe for everybody. And that includes walking, biking, taking transit, and also driving.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Alek, our next question is going to come from our LGLR committee member, Vigan Azarian. Vigan?
Yes. Good morning, Alek. My
Good morning.
question is about publicly owned parking lots. The City Council has been entertaining the idea of developing publicly owned parking lots, such as in Montrose or around the Civic Center and south of the Armenian Catholic Church, into mixed-use housing. Do you support or oppose such development? And if you support the idea, how will you address parking displacement and protect small businesses?
Yeah, I do not support anything happening on any of these lots without proper community engagement and input. I think what's happened so far is that there has been a void from the city in communicating to the public what these lots could be used for and having a frank conversation with the community about what they think the lots should be used for. So I don't even want to entertain anything, whether it's mixed use housing, low density housing, even keeping the parking lot as it is without having what I'm calling a comprehensive community engagement strategy, which I think the city currently does not have. So there is a void. People are filling that void with all sorts of speculations, concepts, things that are not even being introduced by the city. And unfortunately, it's created a very toxic environment and space in which the community is not even able to have a frank conversation with their electeds because they're coming from a place of fear. And I think that's legitimate. I think the city has not been doing a very good job of doing outreach and having honest conversations about land use policy and general plan and community plan updates. Now that we do not have a planning director, I'm hoping that a new planning director can come in and correct this issue. But I'm hoping that as an elected official, as a new council member, I'll be able to propose what I think is a comprehensive community engagement strategy, which we need. And that comes first before having any of these conversations. But what I will say about the small business issue, I've had many conversations with small business owners in Montrose specifically. That is a very tricky issue. My understanding is the parking lot is not ADA compliant. The small business owners have been asking for the parking lot to be renovated. That's going to cost a lot of money. And I don't have a quick solution and don't propose to have all the answers for how that's going to be addressed in this budget deficit, and how we're going to improve that parking lot without also causing some disruption and some temporary loss of parking while those renovations are happening. So again, with that issue as well, we need to have a conversation with the small business owners. It should not, whatever is being proposed by the city should not be a surprise to anybody. And the only way that we can do that is by having real, frank, and open and transparent conversations with that community as well.
Thank you, Alek.
Sevak, you're muted.
And so, oh, okay, Seva, go ahead.
It's nice not to be heard every once in a while. Carmen Arom is our next questionnaire, past president and a current board member. Carmen, please.
Good morning, Alek. My question has to do with rent registry, and would love to hear from you your thoughts in terms of do you support or oppose a mandatory rent registry in Glendale? If you support it, what specific data should be collected and how should sensitive information be preserved and protected? If you oppose it, what alternative data sources should the city rely upon for rental market analysis?
Yeah, I believe I mentioned this in the questionnaire. I don't have a strong feeling about this. I'm leaning that we don't need a rental registry. I know that there have been a lot of conversations or questions coming from the community about the number of rental units, which rental units are vacant, and how that affects our housing policy and how we feel we need to address the housing issues that we're facing. So I don't have a strong opinion. I understand that it's a concern for the realtors. And that's something that I think I mentioned in my questionnaire that I'd like to have conversations with you all about that, to see if that's the type of data that we're looking for to help inform housing policy. I'd like to make sure that it's something that you all are okay with, and hearing what the concerns are as well. So I know that there are concerns. I don't know what the specific concerns are. I haven't had an opportunity to sit down with many realtors and have that conversation. But it's something that I'm willing to sit down, listen, have a conversation, and see where we can get the data that we need. Because there's been a lot of questions about which units are vacant. We're building all this housing, but the buildings are all empty. Obviously, that's purely anecdotal, and there have been conversations about looking at electricity customers from GWP and somehow assessing whether those units are being actively used or lived in. And even that's being challenged as something that's not necessarily accurate. So if you've got ideas, I'm all ears. I'd like to have a conversation about that. I am not the type of person to just throw out policy ideas without having conversations with relevant professionals in the field. So I'm hoping to lean on you on this one and learn more about the issue.
Thank you.
Sevak, you're on unmute yourself.
What I was saying was that you have 2 minutes to bring up anything that we maybe did not bring up, or give us your closing statement, please.
Yeah, again, I want to thank you for the opportunity. I know all the work that you've all been doing since my involvement in civic engagement since the age of 22. I've seen Greg Historian at many, many council meetings doing a good job of representing the organization. And I've seen and met a handful of you since I announced my candidacy a few months ago. I'm very excited to serve as a council member. This is a unique, amazing opportunity as a lifelong Glendale resident and as somebody who is growing my roots here in the community. I'm very excited to serve as a council member. I think we are in a unique situation in 2026 and have a lot of challenges coming our way. And in my view, that requires candidates who are serious, who have the experience, the knowledge, the expertise to address these issues. And with traffic safety and transportation issues being top of mind for residents, I'm uniquely qualified as a city planner, as a city transportation professional, to address those issues. So I think it's time that we have an urban planner on the city council. I have been serving the community for a very long time. This is something that I'm very passionate about, and I'm not doing it for a title. I've served a few terms on the commission. I started an organization at the age of 22, started the community gardens. I'm not doing this to rise as an elected official and use Glendale as a stepping stone. Glendale is my community. I want to see us celebrating our diversity with both renters, homeowners, cultural diversity, socioeconomic. I want to bring the community together. And I think given the increasing divisiveness that's been happening, not only on the dais, but also in the community, that we bring a consensus builder to the council, bridge those connections, and work towards healing a lot of the division that's happened in the community in the last few years. So I'm happy to serve in that role. I hope to earn your support. But most important, I hope that we all work together to make our city a better place. So thank you for the opportunity, and hope to connect with you beyond this interview and make our city a better place.
Thank you so much. We truly appreciate you dedicating your time to be with us this morning. Wishing you all the best. Take care.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye.